how riders corner so fast and achieve over 60 degrees of lean angle at insanely high speeds with over 20 other bikes on track at the same time. Not only that, but watching them physically hang off the bike, dragging their shoulders on the ground seems to be impossible, and yet they do it corner after corner, lap after lap. But how is it actually possible? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how riders achieve these insane lean angles and corner so fast without falling off at every corner. Now, a big part of motorbike riding is leaning. This is an essential part of any motorbike, but it's especially important for MotoGP riders. So before we go through how they can hang off the bike so aggressively, I need to first explain why riders lean into the corner in the first place. Body position is everything.
The body position is everything.
Body position is huge.
Body and the rider make such a big difference on the motorcycle in comparison to four wheels.
Sometimes you do need to adapt your style, and you do need to adapt your body position to suit certain bikes, circuits.
If a rider was to turn into a corner completely upright, the bike would throw itself out of the corner along with the rider, which obviously is less than ideal. But why does this happen? Well, it's impossible to go through a corner if the combined center of gravity of both the rider and the bike is in the wrong place. When a rider turns into a corner, there's a centripetal turning force generated where the tires are in contact with the ground. Now, this turning force generates a torque around the center of gravity of the bike, and this is what tips it away from the corner. So to counteract this force, a rider needs to lean in the corner that they're going around. So if a rider starts leaning into the corner, the combined center of gravity of the rider and the bike moves to the inside. And this generates an opposite tipping in force to the turning out force, wanting to throw the bike and rider out of the corner. If both forces can cancel each other out, this allows a rider to go through a corner in a stable and controlled way. So you might be saying that the more you lean, the better and faster you can go through a corner. And you'd be right to a certain point. And I'll touch on what happens if you lean a little bit too much later on in this video. So we now know why a rider needs to lean into a corner. It's to physically get through the corner without being thrown the opposite way. But the amount of lean angle that MotoGP riders can generate is absolutely staggering. Let's take a normal naked road bike. These can achieve a maximum lean angle of around 50 degrees. A road-going sports bike could achieve a max lean angle of around 55 degrees. If you go one step further and look at a racing superbike with slick tires, they'll be able to achieve a max lean angle of around 61 degrees. Now, this number is pretty insane, and this is becoming very near the physical limit of what bikes are able to achieve. But MotoGP bikes and their riders can achieve an absolutely baffling 64 degrees of lean angle pretty regularly. And multiple riders have been seen achieving much more than that. Take Marc Marquez at the German Grand Prix in 2019. He managed 66 degrees of lean angle. Now, obviously, depending on the speed and how tight the corner is, the lean angle will change. But the principle is the same. The more lean angle that a MotoGP rider can generate, the faster they can physically go through the corner. Now, a big part of how MotoGP riders achieve over 60 degrees of lean angle is to do with their tires. MotoGP tires and racing tires in general aren't like your normal standard road-going tires. They're different in almost every way. Take what the tires are made up of for an example. Road tires need to be hard to go thousands of miles before needing to be changed. Most of these miles will be normal riding with some spirited riding on occasion. Now, you can get softer road tires which won't last as long, but comparing those to a MotoGP tire, the difference is absolutely massive. Racing tires are unbelievably sticky because they have a much higher coefficient of friction. Now, that might sound like a fancy term, but it's essentially a value that tells us how well two surfaces grip against each other. The higher the number, the better the grip. Obviously, this is a huge benefit to being able to achieve more lean angle. Race tyres are also more aggressively shaped. That might sound a little bit strange to say, but just stay with me. Take a look at these two tyres. The tyre on the left is a road tyre. The tyre on the right is a racing tyre. Notice the difference in the profile. Road tyres are much more rounded, sort of like a U shape. This allows for a nice, smooth, progressive turn-in feel when cornering, which on the road is a nice thing to have. They provide a similar contact patch regardless of the lean angle. Race tyres, on the other hand, are much more aggressively shaped, more like a V. This means they have a much larger contact patch when leant over versus when they're upright. It also allows for much more aggressive and fast turn-in performance, which all helps MotoGP riders corner faster. Now, it doesn't matter how good or how much grip a tyre has on a MotoGP bike. If a rider is too aggressive on the throttle, you're going to risk spinning the wheels, which can cause an accident. MotoGP bikes have nearly 300 horsepower. And that's where their electronic systems really come into play, allowing riders to corner more aggressively. To help understand this point better, I want to briefly go over how the electronic systems have evolved over the years. Older bikes, as you'd imagine, didn't have any electronics at all. It was all done with the rider's right hand on the throttle. If you were too aggressive, you'd be sent to the moon. As time moved on, teams started experimenting with different electronic systems, and they became much more advanced and sophisticated over the years. And the height of all of this was in the mid-2000s. Teams all had their own systems, and some were so clever they could adjust themselves lap by lap and corner by corner, all from data that the bike measured. It was F1 level advanced, maybe even more so than F1 at the time. Anyway, point being, Dorna changed the regulations back in 2016, which meant all of the teams had to use a standard electronic system. Now, this did make the bikes harder to ride, but the racing became better. This was obviously good, but as the years went on, the bikes became easier to ride again, even though there weren't that many changes to the systems. How was that even possible? Well, as engineers do, they set about trying to gain an advantage, and they developed torque delivery maps. These maps tell
Do not take apple cider vinegar.